I feel bad. I fucking cut him so much. God damn, I couldn't see him. I had no idea he was trying to talk to me. I feel, oh man, holy moly. I mean, he's a nice guy, it seems. I like him a lot more than I like Piers.
The BBC has been under intense focus. The doors of New Broadcasting House were sprayed red. Thousands of Palestinian supporters have marched past the office. Politicians and other media have accused us of not doing or saying enough or saying too much. And as Noah was just saying, on Tuesday, we repeatedly made it clear on this programme that
Dude, this was crazy. This was crazy. I cannot believe that they made BBC apologize for assuming correctly that the Al Ahli hospital strike was Israel's responsibility. It blew my mind because, like, why did they want you on this? I don't know. The lady before was just like ripping into him too.
Yet to verify who was behind the Al Ahli hospital blast, but we accept that one of our correspondents speculated too far, which we have retracted. Contrary to what some of our detractors think, we do try to get the story right, and when we don't, it should be public. But equally, we have to accept that there is an increasingly polarised debate around this conflict. How can mainstream media satisfy all of its critics, and indeed, should they? With us tonight is one of the most successful Twitch streamers, Hasan. He's a left-wing political commentator, a self-prescribed propagandist who has tens of thousands of people right now watching his 10-hour-long broadcast on the situation in Gaza. In the past fortnight, I should say, he's raised from small donations over $1 million for the Palestinians. Hasan Piker, good evening.
Like, I want to point.
Thank you for having me.
Before we even get started, you notice that this is the room that I had to talk to them from. Like, we do not have conclusive evidence at this time to know whether the Al Ahli hospital was bombed by Israel or if it was a Hamas or Islamic Jihad or like a Palestinian force rocket misfiring. Okay? We do not have enough information at this moment to conclusively state in one direction or the other. However, there is so much overwhelming circumstantial evidence that points in the direction of Israel that I do not think it's an unfair assessment to make. Now, I have, of course, said time and time again that what the key pieces of evidence are. But ultimately, we will not know until there is a third-party analysis that occurs. Okay? I think that there has to be a third-party analysis. I will give you some of the sussy side of why I think, or what Hamas has done thus far, that I think is also suspicious. Because it's not just, like, for example, there isn't any fragmentation. Like, there isn't any fragments that they have been able to point to. This is big because in prior instances when Israel bombed an area and then they said, no, we didn't do it, it was Islamic Jihad, Hamas has come out and been like, no, it was Israel. Here's the fucking fragmentation. Like, here's a piece of the missile, right? Like, this has not happened. Now, it could be because of the munition that was used ultimately, and that's why I say there needs to be a third-party investigation, because in a third-party investigation, when you go on the ground, you do chemical tests, like you look at the soil, like these are all really, really important components to understanding exactly who was responsible for this. Now, having said that, what is important to also recognize is that regardless of who did this, And I do still maintain the position that it's completely understandable to assume Israel did this because they had bombed this hospital prior. Okay? It does not change the reality that there have been a shit ton more murdered in the hands of authorized Israeli strikes. And this is something to understand. This back and forth happening on the nitty gritty, okay? On the nitty gritty of like who is responsible for this is simply playing the role of a distraction, and a very good one as a matter of fact, because a lot of the OSINT guys can't let it go. And we are also morbidly curious, I think, as humans here in the West, looking at the conflict. If you know who doesn't give a shit about who did this, okay? The people on the ground. Like the Palestinians, I don't think care about this one way or the other. Do you want to know why? Because since then, many other targets have been bombed, including a residential building right next to the Al-Quds hospital the night after, okay? And also a church. Not directly the church, by the way. Don't yell at me immediately like, oh, Hasan, I got you. It wasn't literally the church. A part of the church complex was bombed and leveled, as a matter of fact, with many casualties. Okay? That happened last night. Justin Amash was an American politician, a libertarian. He was in the Republican Party. His fucking immediate family members were murdered, as far as we know. So, like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy that is still going on. So, yes, for those people on the ground, they don't give a shit what happened. They think it was Israel. They've said it was Israel. And they've moved on because, guess what? Israel has bombed a shit ton more since then. So, that's my perspective on the matter. As much as I am morbidly curious and I want to know, I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know, and I think that it's important to understand and account for every single bomb, every single missile, every single rocket, whether it's misfired or whether it's deployed directly by Israel, every single one of those that hits a target and actually kills people or destroys structures should be accounted for. These are crimes, okay? These are war crimes, and they should be accounted for, regardless of the fog of war. But having said that, the idea that like, oh, if we prove that this was Islamic Jihad, as some people have decided, then all of a sudden what? 3,450 or 3,480, more than that now, people that have died, people that have been killed in Palestine and Gaza, are what? Are they going to come back to life? No. Who killed them? Was it always an Islamic Jihad rocket? It was always a misfire? Was it the Islamic Jihad misfiring another rocket into the fucking church the other night? Or was it a direct Israeli airstrike that actually blew up a part of this church? Why is this bombing specifically such a big deal? Because a lot of nerds think that if they disprove this bombing was Israel, that like all of a sudden, magically everything is going to be okay. And then they can move on to the second thing and be like, remember when you said it was Israel when it wasn't Israel? And then everybody got mad? And then like they went and they fucking attacked embassies and stuff? Like that was your fault. You did that. Like, no, dumbass. That's not the reason why people are fucking mad. People are mad because of the hundreds of other bombings that have occurred so far. That's simply the straw that broke the camel's back. Notice how they're still fucking protesting? Because more things have been blown up? Anyway. And depending on like what degree of piece of shit you're working with, some of them will say this calls into question all of the casualty numbers that Palestinian authorities give us. Or some say, well, this calls into question all of the other bombings or some of the other bombings that they claim Israel is doing. But ultimately, the best thing that can happen is constantly going back and forth on this conversation. So you don't hear about the church that was bombed. You don't hear about the mosque that was bombed today. You don't hear about any of the other fucking bombing campaigns that Israel is still currently engaging in as they are looming, as they're literally focusing on putting together a fucking ground invasion of Gaza. That's it. So this is the last thing that we're going to look at.
I was privy to the conversation that you were having earlier, and I have a lot of thoughts on what was said, but also specifically on why the BBC is under fire for, in my opinion, engaging in objective news coverage for the first time in the conflict, in a situation where the fog of war presented facts coming from numerous different authorities. I believe that it is perfectly valid and understandable to assume, to make the reasonable assessment and reasonable assumption that the Al Ahli hospital was bombed from either an Israeli airstrike, or new information coming from forensic architecture shows that it could have possibly been an artillery strike as well. This is just developing at this moment. And I think that covering it, considering that the Al Ahli hospital had previously been bombed by Israel 2 days prior, or 3 days prior, on Saturday, bombed by Israel, where the cancer ward was damaged, where 4 hospital staff were wounded, and that the hospital staff themselves had said that the Israeli authorities had routinely been in contact with them, telling them to evacuate. And this evacuation order, of course, has been given to numerous hospitals.
Okay. Well, listen, Hasan, I don't want to relitigate what happened on Tuesday night.
He didn't want to relitigate it because he's scared. Okay? He's scared at the top of the hour ad break because he's not subscribed for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime. So he's scared. Now, if you no longer want to see those ads, you don't have to be scared. All you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Just saying. This guy said he likes me, though, and wants me to come back on. So that was cool.
Suffice to say that BBC Verify have done they've done a deep dive into what happened, and people can go and read what BBC Verify have uncovered. And I think it's a fair assumption of what we have, what is in the public domain. But obviously, neither side on this argument is going to be satisfied until there's an independent investigation, and it's not something we're likely to get. So none of us can really assess what happened or who was to blame. What I want to get to is why your Twitch account, why your broadcasts each evening are so popular. What is it that your audience gets from you that it perhaps doesn't get from me? Because you get more people watching you of an evening than I do.
I think that one of the reasons why my broadcast, I guess, is relatively popular.
This disarmed me a little bit. This disarmed me a little bit because it's like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, why did he just say that? He glazed me up a little bit, and it shocked me.
Is because younger people are looking for alternative media outlets that offer a level of consistency and analysis from all sides of any given conflict, any given real-time situation. Cutting through the fog of war is obviously a very difficult thing to do, especially when the electricity and power and internet is shut off in the Gaza Strip. But we make do here, and I think that's part of the reason I have a lot of on-the-ground reporters that I trust. I have a lot of reporters that I trust in America and also in Israel, alongside on the Palestinian side, that I take from when I'm engaging in this kind of coverage. And I think there's a more personal component to it as well. But last but not least, I guess the main difference here is that my perspective, which I'm very open about, is biased. I believe in the emancipation of Palestinians. I believe that they have a right to return. I believe that there should be a single, solitary, secular nation state where Palestinians and Israelis have equal rights. I believe in punishing the war criminals, not just on the Palestinian side as well, who have done ruthless and brutal attacks against civilian populations, but also on the Israeli side as well, with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. These are things that I believe, and I am.
So do you think you reflect? I mean, you say you're a self-prescribed propagandist. You say you have bias in a Palestinian direction. Is there a danger that people?
No, I not bias in a Palestinian direction. I have bias
towards a particular view on the conflict.
In a particular view on the conflict, but against all people that are subjugated, all people that are under fire. There is no difference from my perspective between an Israeli child and a Palestinian child. And I believe that, unfortunately, due to the way that we have manufactured consent for decades over the war on terror, most people in the Western world, whether they recognize it or not, do not cover the victims of a larger state power, especially when they're Arab, especially when they're Muslim, like they're full human beings. They're just enemy combatants. They're usually seen as enemy combatants. And I think that the water gets muddied in this regard, and I think it plays into what the IDF likes to propagandize is the fact that they're the most moral army, and that we're having this conversation in the eve of more than 3,400 Palestinians being murdered by the IDF in an ongoing campaign. The defense minister has openly said we're fighting human animals. That's why we have to cut their food, their water, and their electricity. These are all war crimes. These are war crimes when Russia does it. These are war crimes when Israel does it. And yet, for some reason, we consistently muddy the waters and say there are enemy combatants, and then there are civilians, and they're just collateral damage.
Hasan, I'm pressed for time.
I feel bad. I fucking cut him so much. God damn, I couldn't see him. I had no idea he was trying to talk to me. I feel, oh man, holy moly. I mean, he's a nice guy, it seems. I like him a lot more than I like Pierce. Oh man, I just came out with a vengeance, dude. It seems like I had a lot inside of me. I had a lot in me, and I was like, I'm ready. I'm fucking ready to explode. You got so many points across so clearly. Like, you released all the power you've been holding from not streaming. Yeah. It's just, it happens. He's strangely chill for a BBC journalist. He's from like a northern labor stronghold. That's why he's got a strong labor background, I think. As far as
I've only got about a minute 40 left. But one of the things that worries me, and it sort of relates to how I come under attack on this program, is just how quickly, after the events of the last 2 weeks, how polarizing the debate becomes, how everybody seems incapable of seeing the other's perspective or point of view when it comes to this issue. Why is that?
I think it's polarizing because people, like I said, do not see the humanity of those who are under colonial subjugation. These are ever since the Nakba, Palestinians have not been able to return back to their homes, 700,000 originally in 1948. And there has been a brutal occupation that the Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International now correctly consider to be an apartheid state. This is, of course, I would say, 20 years after Nelson Mandela had considered Israel to be an apartheid state, and I feel like he knows a thing or two about apartheid states in general. It's not necessarily a polarizing subject. It's just that there are right-wing forces inside of Israel that are utilizing this the conflict as a means to continue getting more land grabs and continue the brutal occupation in the West Bank as well, which is completely unjustifiable and illegal by international law.
Yeah.
But it's not polarizing.
Hasan, I'll have to cut it there because we're about to go to a break, but it's been lovely to talk to you. Congratulations on the success of your programming. Good to get your perspective as well this evening. Let me just show you the picture at the State Department, which we're watching closely. For an update on those hostages, we'll bring you that shortly.
So,
stay with us.
Apparently, I got more time. I got like 7 minutes. They gave me more time on BBC World than they do prime ministers sometimes, okay? That's what I heard. Because I'm fucking Yappington, dude. I am Mr. Yapper, okay? I'm Yappadabadoo up in this bitch. 10 hours of fucking broadcast has really, just every day, doing 10 hours of broadcast every fucking day has really conditioned me into being this guy. Fucking Jake Yapper. Tell us about the lamp. What lamp? I think that was a good interview overall. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. By the IDF and ISA conducted an aerial strike on Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorist compound in the Al Ansar Mosque in Jenin. Oh, their lamp is here. I put it over here, so there's more light in front of me.